I've put together an entire gluten recovery system, and you know, gluten is just, it's something that you would do better without. And I have confidence saying that after seeing how removal of gluten from my intake has helped me, and after witnessing so many people have so many beneficial reactions to letting go of gluten. So gluten is a family of proteins that are very difficult to digest, and out of those proteins there's two main proteins, and these are known as gliadin and glutenin. The stomach has a very difficult time pre-digesting them and breaking apart the proteins before they enter into the small intestine. When they get into the small intestine, because they haven't been broken apart efficiently by the stomach, they tumble through your small intestine and destroy your villi, which are your absorptive tissues. They're like these little finger-like sponges, if you will, that absorb nutrients from your food after it's been pre-digested by your stomach. So, you know, the key to health here, folks, is assimilation of nutrients. If you cannot assimilate nutrients, I don't care what you're eating, whether it's good or bad, you're not going to be able to absorb anything out of what you're consuming. So I try to look at things from a very common sense perspective, and I look at the body for what it is. And the body is a walking, it's plumbing. It's walking plumbing. You are a living vessel of plumbing. Your body's filled full of different ducts and tubes and ventricles and veins, and it circulates fluid. It's like a biological pump, if you will. Now, if that plumbing gets obstructed, if you back things up, if you cause it to not be able to work properly, you're in trouble. Now, our plumbing is a little bit different than plumbing beneath a sink, if you will, because the plumbing in your body, parts of it, absorb things from things that you put into your system. You see, your sink cannot digest nutrients. Your body digests nutrients from the foods that you eat. So if we look, ladies and gentlemen, at a sink with a garbage disposal, and that garbage disposal only works at 10% its capacity, it's not going to be able to break down foods efficiently and shuttle them out of the sink, correct? Well, if your stomach and if your small intestine, which we can look at as a garbage disposal metaphorically, does not break apart or is not able to utilize nutrients from the food that you eat efficiently, you're not going to be able to absorb things from the food you're eating. You're not going to be able to absorb amino acids and the nutrients, the minerals, the enzymes, all of it, which puts you in serious risk because your body requires nutrients, and the only way it can get the nutrients that are required by it is through assimilation, absorption, and gluten destroys your absorption. That is why gluten is off my fucking food pyramid. Excuse my language. You get rid of it. People are like, but what about pasta? What about bread? How am I going to live without this shit? Oh my God, what about beer? Well, guys, there's a good chance that you've lived the majority of your life, there's a good chance that for the majority of your life you've been eating this stuff. You can't let go of it for a year as an experiment. There's gluten-free beer. There's gluten-free bread. There's gluten-free pasta. Do I suggest getting on those? No. Do I suggest using them as training wheels if you're that addicted to those food groups? Yes. Which brings me to my next point. I'm just kind of blown away at how many people are so unwilling to try new things because they're set in their ways. They're comfortable. How can I live without bread? Really? Is that how we define our lives? Through the foods that we're allowed to eat? I mean, is that how people derive the enjoyment in their life? Now, I understand that food is good. Don't get me wrong. I eat. And when I eat at night, when I break my fast, I overeat. I enjoy food. But I'm not unwilling to let go of things. In fact, most people would find what I eat probably rather boring or restrictive or repetitive. I mean, if I find something that I like and it's good for me, I can eat it day in and day out constantly. In fact, that's how I like to operate. But I've never been the type of person that's unwilling to let go of things when I find out that they're not bad for me. or that they're bad for me. Sure, I've struggled at times. I mean, I struggled with letting go of cigarettes. I struggled letting go of certain food groups in the past, yada, yada, yada. But eventually I got my shit together and I got it done. Excuse me. But now, you guys, I'm like a laser where it's like, if I find out that it's not good for me, goodbye. There's no more sympathizing with bread and sympathizing with all these toxic foods. I'm sorry. That's just how I look at things. How about, instead of needing the bread, how about just resorting to rice? There's plenty of gluten-free grains and starches, you guys. You can have potatoes. Potatoes with butter and salt and a little bit of cream with some cracked pepper, with some vegetables, or you know, a piece of meat, or even some eggs on the side. What else do you need? Is my point. What else do you need? You can let go of gluten. Here's the thing. Let me try to put this into words. People are unwilling to let go of gluten because they're hooked on breads and pasta and carbohydrates. They're hooked on grains, and don't tell me they're not. The average American consumes over 130 pounds of wheat every year, and that's just one of multiple grains that contains gluten. Get real. The average person is unwilling to let go of gluten. I can't live without my sandwiches. I can't live without my pasta. When in fact, the opposite is true. When you let go of these things, that's when you truly do start to live. And when you let go of certain foods, it forces you to try new things. And when you try new things, you realize that, wow, I've been operating within a small boundary, or set of boundaries. Now that I'm out of my box, now that I've let go of this particular food and I've broken the addiction to it, because gluten is an addiction, wow, I'm suddenly trying all these new things. I'm suddenly in the kitchen experimenting with recipes, and my skin's getting better, and my ability to focus is improving, yada, yada, yada. I've said it once and I'll say it again. Gluten destroys focus. It kills focus and promotes mental instability. If your child or you suffer with ADHD, let go of gluten for 2 months and watch what happens. More often than not, people experience benefits within 1 week or less. I'm telling you guys, it's that profound. It has that profound of an effect negatively on your mind. It's an inflammatory grain. It's an inflammatory set of proteins. Excuse me. And when you put this stuff into your system goes haywire. And unfortunately, the symptoms of consumption of gluten often appear as things that would never be related to gluten. So you eat this stuff, you suffer, and you don't know why you're suffering, even though it's from those proteins in the bread and the cereals and the pastas. Gluten kills focus and promotes mental instability. I have a video titled that. You should watch it if you haven't already. Gluten kills focus and promotes mental instability. It's so true. Pick up, let me just grab it really quickly, you guys. Pick up this book right here. Grain Brain by Dr. David Perlmutter. Again, Grain Brain by Dr. David Perlmutter. This is an excellent book. It's easy to read and it's full of information. Let's just take a look really quickly at some of the symptoms associated with gluten intolerance. And most people have a gluten sensitivity, folks. Just because you got tested and you don't have celiac disease, that doesn't mean that you don't have a gluten sensitivity. Gluten sensitivities and intolerances are not just limited to your intestines. It directly assaults your small intestine, but it also directly assaults your brain and your bones and your blood and your liver and your tissues and your skin and your pancreas, this, that, and the other. So on page 67 of his book, Grain Brain, he lists a few symptoms of signs of gluten sensitivity. I'm only going to name a few of these, but this is an entire page. ADHD, alcoholism, anxiety, autism, depression, hives and rashes, heart disease, migraines, cancer, chest pain, osteopenia, osteoporosis is also linked to gluten sensitivity, guys. And this stuff is in everything. It's one of the most common food additives, and they are adding it to everything. What a strange dimension that we're living in, where like foods have all these crazy contaminants and additives to them that cause all of these health issues. Maybe the health issues are caused largely by what we're putting into our mouths. In the same way that you can't expect a sink not to clog if you put lard down it, you can't expect to have health if you're constantly putting things into your system that destroy your health and your well-being. This is common sense information. This is common sense rationale, guys. We've got to get our common sense back. We've got to put our thinking cap back on, but it's very difficult to do that in this world because we've lost our common sense. And we've lost our common sense because we've ruined our health, and we've trusted we've trusted everybody else other than our own damn self. So the complete gluten recovery system, I'm going to make a video package with recipes and like an entire comprehensive system on how to reattain your health after years of being damaged by this way of living that we've all lived. Maybe I'll charge a small amount for it and make it super detailed, because people tend to care more about information and do more with information when they pay for it. And I'm not saying you guys don't care for my information, but a lot of time and effort goes into these videos and whatnot, and the research. It would be nice to make some type of financial income from them. But long story short, get off the gluten and get off the vegetable oils. Increase your absorption of antioxidants. You know, things like quercetin, things like berberine, things like ascorbic acid, things like resveratrol. Bioflavonoids. I mean, look at this. This is like 6 lemons, or excuse me, this is like 4 lemons from the garden out front in water. I let this steep overnight. This is an antioxidant potion. We're under massive amounts of oxidative stress. We've damaged ourselves from years of eating these foods that just totally cripple our body's ability to stay healthy. And there's such a production of free radicals in our system. It's just, our bodies have been engineered based on how we live here to constantly attack itself. It's insane. So removing the things that cause our body to attack itself while increasing the saturation of things that can help our body recover and deal with oxidative stress and damage would be probably pretty smart for your well-being if you really want to get out of this haze, this maze, this hell system. Peace be with you all.